Welcome to another edition of Natural Crafts. We're going to make a fantastic centerpiece with things abundantly found in nature at this time of year. So we have tons of evergreens. I've just picked a whole bunch of varieties like cedar and pine and fir. And if you have holly around your house, that's fantastic because it already has the berries on it. But we also have birch and wild berries and lovely pine cones, so it's going to make a fabulous piece. But all you're going to do is you're going to add layer by layer all of your evergreen pieces and all of your little extra things in to make a lovely centerpiece. So the first thing I like to do is I start with the ends, and I like to make something that's long. Now you could use any type of the evergreen for the ends. You could use the pine, you can use the cedar, but right now I'm just going to start with cedar. And as you can see, I just shove it into the foam, and so that it hangs over a little bit on the end. By the time we're finished, it is going to cascade over top, so you're not going to see anything. So it doesn't really matter what kind of tray you have. And I like to make these a little bit more low because I don't want, when people are sitting at a table, the centerpiece to take over so that you have to move it off every time. So if you make the arrangement fairly low, you'll be able to talk across the table and see everybody, so you can leave it on there. So it's a nice piece. So as I said, you're just taking the pieces and sticking them in. I just like to do the first layer, the bottom layer. And as you're sticking them in, make sure that you have trimmed off the bottom, because if there's any kind of evergreen bits on the ends, it tends to work its way out of the floral foams. But as you're working it through, it's really just a layering process. And you can see how it starts to fill in. I always find that when I'm doing anything, whether it is a basket outside, it always looks worse before it gets better. So if you just keep adding your little pieces on, eventually it's going to get to the fullness that you want. And as you start layering up, you can use a little bit thicker evergreen pieces. But the nice thing about using the evergreens in this foam is that they will stay fresh, because you'll just give it a little bit of watering every couple of days, like maybe not even a quarter of a cup, and they will stay fresh sometimes for a couple of months. So you could even make this in late November and last you through the holidays. When I start adding the second layer, it really does start to take some shape. And if you don't have enough evergreens in your yard, if you went out and got a real Christmas tree, you can cut the bottom branches off of the tree and use those as well. It's a great way not to lose any of those beautiful branches, and they smell so nice in the house because of the evergreen smell. So as you can see now, I'm just starting to add some of the lovely white pine. Keep just layering it and layering it until you get the thickness that you want. And like I said, I pre-trimmed off a lot of the edges, so it really is easy to slide in. And I have also some red pine, which are these, sometimes they come with pine cones already on them, but they're really nice and thick as well. So they'll just sit in over top. And I like to use a different variety of evergreen per layer. And here's some of my favorite. The hemlock is an evergreen, and it's got those kind of little, kind of greeny yellow berries on them as well. So when you stick those in, they really fill up spaces. And as a great way to stay connected with all of your friends, share this video on Facebook with them and host a virtual centerpiece making party where you guys can create your own centerpieces and show them off to each other. It's a great way to stay connected during this time of year. When you get to the center, this is when, if you wanted to put a candle in, you could put a candle in the center and then just build around it. So you see, as it fills out, It kind of flattens down a little bit and it looks really, really pretty. Okay, so now we have these sumac flowers. And again, I like to use natural things rather than putting in ornaments, but of course you can put in ornaments or anything that you have around the house. And these sumac flowers, just cut it a little bit on an angle so it's sharp enough to stick in. And you'll see sumac flowers in the fields and on the sides of the roads. And you also will find the gray dogwood. And these are the ones that have a little bit of that red on the end. So even though they look a little sparse, when you stick them in amongst the other greenery, it really adds a nice little touch. And if you want to stick in the side, again, the nice thing is it'll just stick in anywhere. So a wild rose bush, at the end of its flowering season, it starts to get these little buds on them and they turn into wild berries. And these two are something that you can find anywhere on your nature walk. They're so abundant, you'll be amazed at how many are out there. Now I have the red dogwood. And these are just the long sticks of red. And I like these to go in the ends. So I just kind of find a space at the end and I stick 3 or 4 of them in together. And they just look so pretty because it adds another nice touch of red. And there's so many wonderful things in nature that you can find. Now I've got a whole bunch of pine cones and you can normally take a piece of wire, wrap it around and then stick it in. But if it's going to sit on the center of your table and nobody's really moving it around, you could just kind of stick them in different places. The other thing I have is some birch branches. So I also like the look of having birch sticking in. I don't know if I'm going to have room for them, but these birch branches have the seed pods still on the end of them. So it also makes for a very natural look. Up to you whether you want to use them or not, but birch trees fall fairly frequently. So you might have some that are in the forest that have fallen and you can just take some of those off. And then I have these little pieces of birch just taken off of the tree. Almost like the ribbons, you know, people add ribbons to theirs. So if you stick in little pieces of birch, it might look nice because they already kind of have that curl to them. And it's really that simple. You're just kind of adding pieces that you like and you're done. A beautiful centerpiece for your table or your coffee table. So don't forget to subscribe because every couple of months we make new crafts from things found abundantly in nature. And coming up, an amazing pussy willow wreath that you can make as early as February.